So, in today's video, we're gonna have ourselves a moment to take a look at the perfect team, or your perfect team, for Pokemon Red and Blue. Now, in this series, you guys submit your definitions of your perfect team, and I showcase some of your comments, and then we take a look at what I think my perfect team is for Red and Blue. So, that's what we're doing. Let's get started. Also, leave in the comments below your perfect team for Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, which is going to be the next episode. Either way, let's get started. So first up is Horatio 786, and this is his team for Red and Blue. He starts off with Venusaur, which he actually gives a moveset to, which is Razor Leaf, Leaf Powder, Swords Dance, and Body Slam. Then he's got a Nidoking with Earthquake, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, and Horn Drill. Then he's got a Clefable with Blizzard, Strength, Fire Blast, and Thunder Wave. Then he kicks in with an Alakazam with Psychic, Recover, Psybeam, Reflect, and Psybeam is for when Psychic runs out of PP, which is fair enough. Then he has a Dodrio with Drill Peck, Fly, Tri Attack, and Mimic. And finishing off his team is going to be Lapras with Ice Beam, Surf, Body Slam, and Confuse Ray. So that was the team from Horatio. Let's go to the next one. Next up is a quick team from Marsley Rita, and his team is basically this. Charizard, of course, makes sense as it's a pretty decent starter Pokemon. Gyarados next up, great water Pokemon, generally speaking, from this generation. Jolteon, a good electric type. I'm not sure like what's better, Raichu or this, but it's a solid Pokemon. Then Dragonite, the only dragon type from this generation, so comes in really handy. Gengar, it's got an amazing typing. It's always had an amazing typing, which works really well. And then finishing it off with Snorlax, a Pokemon that is pretty decently good, actually, if you look back at Generation 1. Then we have little Cyndaquil, and this is his team. So he says, my team for Red and Blue is this. Charizard, you know why. Well, I think we do know why. And he's got Pidgeot, because it's Bird Jesus, and he can actually learn Fly, unlike Charizard, which is a fair point. I'm not sure, I mean, if I would personally go for Pidgeot, but I can understand why, though. Then Jolteon, better than Raichu, in my opinion. That's what he says. And again, that's what I kind of mentioned on the previous one, that, like, the fact that Jolteon is pretty decent, but the question really is Raichu better or worse? Then he says Nidoking, favorite poison type, which is fair. It's one of the best Pokemon, actually probably the best Pokemon you can have across the board for Generation 1. And then Vileplume, great for Misty, which is fair if you go early on. And then Poliwrath, totally having Poliwrath on my team is what he says. So yeah, that's a honestly pretty solid team, if I may say so myself. Then we have a Discord submitted team by PikaPal97, and his team is this. Charizard, and he says that it was his favorite Pokemon before it was a meme, which is fair enough. A lot of people actually love Charizard, but unfortunately now it's kind of been overdone. Then he says Raichu, always a go-to when I grab a Pikachu in Viridian Forest, and that's actually a really good choice. Having that for like the second gym against Misty, really solid. Then he says Golem, harder to evolve but some massive coverage. True again. Lapras, thought about having 3 starters, but wanted more variety, and Lapras is a great tank with a good typing, which, hey, that is pretty logical. I mean, he's not wrong there. Lapras covers a lot of the bases. And then Alakazam / Gengar, so either one of those, both are really great, even though Alakazam is stronger in Gen 1, which is a fair point. Dragonite next, never actually taken the time to play through with it much, but it's a great mon, and that is honestly true. So there is the team from PikaPal. Let's go to the next one. And the final fan-submitted team is by Sloth from our Discord server, which you guys can, by the way, join. But here's his team. First of all, Venusaur, reason, best choice for early game with type advantage over Brock and Misty, which is a fair point. Number 2, Gyarados, reason, high power late game and reason to spend 500 Pokédollars. And of course he says here that's more of a joke. Then he says number 3, Dragonite, reason, one of the best Pokemon in Gen 1 with very few weaknesses, which is very much true. Number 4, Alakazam, reason, similar to Dragonite, but can be easier to get since it doesn't require the Safari Zone or a large amount of coins from the game corner. Fair point. Number 5, Jolteon, reason, just my favorite evolution for Gen 1 and more type coverage. Again, fair point. I see a lot of Jolteon in here, I will say. And number 6, Gengar, reason, type coverage and helpful late game, which is true. Gengar covers a lot of bases, as mentioned. I mean, all these Pokemon, seeing a lot of similarities here, and it's pretty solid teams, if I may say so myself. These all look pretty damn good, and I just want to know what you guys think about these. Like, what are your thoughts and opinions about them? Let me know about these, and also in the comment section right now, feel free to comment what your team, like your perfect team, would be for Pokemon Ruby and Pokemon Sapphire. And that is it for the fan submissions. Now let's take a look at what I think the perfect team is according to me. Let's get into that. So now we get started with my team. So this is my perfect team for Pokemon Red and Blue, and this is what it looks like. First off, for me in the team, has to be the starter Pokemon, and I think personally, Charizard has to be the starter I go for. I mean, yeah, I know, sure, Charmander would struggle against the first two gyms, like, you know, Brock and Misty. Of course, that's reasonable, I understand that, right? But at the end of the day, Charmander will struggle, but Charizard, once you evolve it into Charizard, all those issues would mostly disappear. See, Charizard is just across the board strong. It has a lot of moves that it can use that come in really handy, and its typing, sure, it would be cool if it had, like, you know, at that time, a dragon typing would have been sick, but of course would have made it a little bit too strong, I would say, probably. But my point is that its general typing works out well in the long run. Sure, you will struggle in the first two, you know, gyms, but if you actually level it up to a Charmeleon, you could just get double kick and you're pretty much set, so you don't even have to worry too much about things. But other than that, yeah, you will struggle in the first two gyms, but you will have an easy time as you progress. Next, though, would be Nidoking. See, getting a Nidoran early on is not that hard, and then having Mount Moon just around the corner for a Moonstone is perfect, as you can then just evolve this thing and get a Nidoking very fast. And as for those that don't know, like, generally much about Nidoking, it is hands down the strongest Pokemon option in all of Red and Blue when it comes to playthroughs. And the reason I say this is because it can take almost any move. You can give it Surf, you can give it Earthquake, you can give it almost anything you want. There's a lot of possibilities here, okay? So a lot of options of, like, moves you can give to Nidoking. It's just, hands down, one of the strongest and best Pokemon ever, like genuinely ever. So that's why I'm giving it this extra level of cred. And honestly, when you just look at it beyond that, its typing matches up perfectly against a lot of different things with its poison ground typing, which comes in really well. But then on top of that, it can also use, again, so many really strong moves from different types than its own. And for me, that's just like the perfect Pokemon to have on the perfect Kanto team. It has all the bells and whistles, hence why I would want it on my team. Next on the team in my mind has to be Alakazam. Sure, it will be sort of like a struggle getting one since you need to first catch an Abra, and then of course there is the issue of evolving Kadabra, and again there's even more issues like, you know, just having to do all that stuff. Like the process of getting one may be a little bit difficult, but not that big of a problem, right? You can get it pretty early into the game, and it's actually worth it. I mean, it's really worth it, because this Pokemon, as attested by a lot of different people, is literally the strongest Pokemon in Gen 1. It is just hands down, stats-wise, like just amazing. It's just got the perfect moves, and it has very few weaknesses when you look at it, right? There's like really not a lot of things that can go up against Alakazam with its psychic typing. Like, it's just hands down a super powerful Pokemon, no questions asked. But yeah, that is Alakazam. However, next we have Dragonite, and this one I must have on the team. I mean, it lacks almost any major weaknesses in the original games, since there weren't any sort of like fairy type Pokemon to stand up against it, so it's basically able to do almost anything. And also on top of that, it's the only Pokemon with this typing. It's the only Pokemon in the game, which makes it a very unique Pokemon at that time, right? Like, there was no other dragon types, so when you get a Dragonite, you know, hey, you've got the only dragon type in the whole region at that point, which is amazing, which makes it so unique, but also super powerful. Again, think about it, right? There's no Pokemon that can really much go up against this. There's only a handful of Pokemon that can really be a problem for you. But beyond that, I mean, you really only struggle against dragon types, ice types, and maybe some other stuff, but beyond that, you're mostly safe. So it's just a hands down Pokemon that's worth having. Now, there is one problem though, which is the fact that it does only really show up really late in the game, or unless, you know, you deal with the game corner and stuff. Like, it's really hard to actually get the Pokemon, and leveling it will take quite some time, but I think it is worth it in the long run. Next up is Gengar, and this is mostly because the lovely typing which it does offer. Sure, we do have Poison already covered by Nidoking, but I find that having this as an extra is just worthwhile, and also the Ghost typing is really useful. And in general, this is a very strong Pokemon. I know I keep saying that word a lot, but genuinely speaking, this is a Pokemon that's across the board going to be really great on the team, as its Ghost typing is going to come in really handy against several different opponents. So just that in itself, it just makes up a lot of why this Pokemon is useful to have. And the final Pokemon is Lapras, which I think fits perfectly as the final Pokemon on the team with that perfect ice typing, who you can use then against people like Lance, who uses Dragonite and mostly dragon types, as the ice typing is the best thing against an obstacle like that. And also, it's the perfect Pokemon in case you don't feel like giving Surf to Nidoking. Like, if you don't want to give Surf to Nidoking, guess what? You've got a Lapras you can give it to, and you can get all the water, moves and stuff onto that Pokemon, and you're pretty much set. Of course, you could go for a Gyarados or whatever. I already mentioned this in my Gold Silver video. You can go for that, of course, if you want instead, but I think Lapras, again, just wins out because of that ice typing. If it was just a pure water type, it definitely would go for Gyarados instead, but since it does have that ice typing with that Ice Beam and stuff, that's good enough. That's perfect enough to get the job done and actually be a far more useful Pokemon. So that is it for today's video, ladies and gentlemen. If you did enjoy it, then drop a like down below, and of course, make sure to comment down below, guys. What is your team, your perfect team for Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire? Keep in mind, Ruby and Sapphire specifically. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Have yourselves a great day, and I will see you all the next time. Bye bye, ladies and gentlemen.